everyone. Good afternoon. You know what? Today I can say, Mark, there it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It truly is a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
We got some sun, some heat, and I am truly loving it. Got a hot show today. I'm subbing. This is Rashid N.C. Wyatt, University District Council member, subbing in for the bishop, the council president, Darius Pridgeon. And we got a couple of things to talk about today. The main one is showed right on the Buffalo Challenger front page, the Bray Miller factor.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about that. So if you are a small business, I hope you'll be listening to this show. I hope that you'll be coming to our finance committee meeting on Tuesday at 10 a.m. at City Hall, because we need your voice. We need your voice to make sure that things don't go off the rail where we give one business almost $600,000 and you still standing with your hand out saying, "Can I get a little something?" But we gonna talk a little bit about that. But I wanted to bring up something real quick that I just experienced. So I want to let you know that we're paying attention to this. Recently, someone contacted me regarding an issue with Easy Pass, the tolls. And the person told me that their plates were taken and the registration was suspended because they owed this amount for Easy Pass, the tolls. And so I'm like, okay, well, things happen like that. If you don't pay your registration, pay your insurance, that can happen. But in this particular case, I got a little bit more information, which typically you don't always get. People tell you half the story, you don't know. But I found out that they were charging this individual $6,000. $6,000 that they had to pay to get their license plates back and get their card. And I'm like, okay, so but what was the amount that you truly owed? They said $500.
Wow.
I said, you got to show this to me. They actually owed $500. But then check this out. They reduced the amount from $6,000 to $2,800. But again, let's go back. But they only owed $500 from tolls that they didn't pay. That is obscene. And then the person told me that, the person told them that, we can't do any more because that's it. That's it? So you really only owe $500, but you still are going to saddle me with $2,400 in fees and penalties and fines, and this is only from 4 or 5 years. This is not from 10 years or anything like that. So if you've got an issue with Easy Pass or with those tolls, please email my office, rwyatt@city-buffalo.com. Let me know because this is a real issue right now, especially with everything is as high as it is. You should pay your what you owe. But to the extent that you are paying almost 3 times, 4 times what you actually owe, and this is from a private entity sponsored by the state, we need to be screaming and hollering because this is how they take us because we don't know. And so people kind of suffer in silence because they feel like nobody's going to help them. But let me know about those situations because I'm going to be on the rampage because, usually the state usury, meaning the amount of interest they can charge you is like 21. Well, actually, it's probably like 28, maybe a little bit more %. So even if you just took that, you don't get up to close to $2,800. So please let me know how, if you got an issue with Easy Pass or with those tolls, because I'm going to be on a rampage because this is absurd. When you got single parents trying to make ends meet, taking care of children's daycare, all those things, everything is going up. And you tell this individual, you want to pay what you owe, but no, we can't work with you. We can't work. Matter of fact, let me go to the last point. They won't even allow you to do a payment plan. Who got $2,800? You got $2,800 in your bank account?
I sure don't. I sure don't.
I ain't even got $2,800 in my account. But again, we gonna talk a little bit about that. If you just email me, email rwyatt@city-buffalo.com. I want to get into that information because we gotta call some people out and get some help on that one.
And I thought they were looking into that because Easy Pass wasn't able to charge like people who were out of state or Canadian. So I thought they were getting a little lax on that. So that's kind of crazy to hear.
Oh no, this just happened a couple of days ago. So I'm like, they lost they daggone mind. But this Bray Miller issue, first I want to give credit where credit is due. And, the council president, Bishop, just takes so much heat from so many people. They say, oh, he's not doing this, he doesn't do that. And unfortunately, y'all think that he can fix everything. He can't. But in this particular situation with Bray Miller, which is in his district, I give him big ups, because if he had have approved this, we wouldn't be at this situation where we are asking to get additional money for small business. So big up to Bishop Pridgeon, Council President, for having the insight that we know that there's a lot of other businesses struggling. And over this past week, we've seen a number of those businesses come forth. They're on the news, they've been interviewed, they have to close their doors. They're still being affected by the pandemic. But to give one business almost $600,000, and then to add to that issue is that there's someone else that's willing to give up to $500,000 more. So this business can possibly get almost $1.2 million. Well, everybody else got a handout for maybe 5, 10, 15. You know, they don't get that significant help. The one business I think in Councilmember Revere's district, Gershwin's, that's been around for decades. I heard from one of the owners talking about how they have to give up their salaries in order to pay their payroll. And that's what businesses do. I mean, they go through uptowns, downtimes, and they do what they have to do. And they're not getting a handout. They're not getting a bailout. They're still struggling, trying to keep the doors open, supplying and providing for the community as well as their employees. So big ups to them, and hopefully through these conversations, they can get what they need to keep their business open.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree, because I know even in our district, we've gotten a few emails from businesses that started either right before the pandemic, businesses that we approved, and they're reaching out like, hey, what about us too? So I'm doing as what was said. I'm forwarding them to the Office of Strategic Planning to see where these other resources are, because it's mighty funny that now all of a sudden there's other resources available. But, you know, and no, this is another topic, because we've been sitting on some ARP money. We've been sitting on a lot of other things. But now, you know, it seems to be other resources. So I think it's imperative that these small businesses do show up on Tuesday, and also reach out to your council members, because the small businesses are in every district. So I think it's imperative that you reach out to your council member so we can point you to the administration, so they understand that we're not just blowing smoke. Like, this is a citywide issue, that not just one business. And I think it was even said in caucus that because of relationships, and we know the issue. Well, there's council members who know the issues. There's communities who know the issue. There's business owners who know the issues. They just may not have the relationship, and that's unfair.
Yeah, and Council President, Ellicott District Council member, kind of blew it up in caucus. You know, how did Bray Miller step to the front of the line over all these other businesses? How did they strategically make they were okay with getting this money and these other businesses weren't? We were told over 100 some odd businesses had applied for this funding, and some of them were denied, or some of them got some of this money, but there's far too many who aren't. We got $331 million.
Yep.
$331 million American Rescue Plan funds. This money was supposed to be transformational. It was supposed to help put us back in the right positions, because, you know, the pandemic took so much from us. But let me tell you, half of this money, unfortunately, they're looking at putting it at what they call revenue replacement. Revenue replacement. So of the 331 million, 100 million was designated to the city because they had lost all this money. You see, I said they had supposedly, but they really didn't. But I'm just telling you, you know, everybody think that I just blow off smoke, but I'm telling you the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. We didn't lose that much money. However, we're going to accept the money. But now they're looking at taking another 50 million and put it towards revenue replacement. So that means over half of this money is going towards revenue replacement, and it's not in our districts. I just had a meeting yesterday with the Phyllis Avenue Block Club. Shout out to Phyllis Avenue Block Club. They came together. They have 2 houses that they were talking about demolitioning. I wanted the community to be engaged with it, to not demolition them, but try to give these people who own these properties help and assistance to rehab these houses. So they came out, but then they started talking about curbs. We need some curbs. Every district is talking about curbs. That money could be transformational to help these blocks with curbing. Our soil erosion is going into our sewer. This money actually is specifically talks about the water lines and making sure that the water lines are, our water treatment centers are, better equipped to deal with the runoff of soil erosion and those things. So really this money should be used for that particular purpose, but we're not. So we're still fighting. The council members, each one of them get about 1.1 million towards their project in their district. And there's some other things too, but we're trying to make sure that we get those other things because we made some promises to communities, organizations, we made promises to block clubs, and we want to hold true to those promises. But you know what? It's not all in our hands, unfortunately. The administration has a big part to do with it, and they have been sitting on this money for almost 2.5 years. We've been pushing them. So when people come to the council and they beat up on us like we ain't doing nothing, like we don't hear them. We hear you. But you know what? You got to go to that second floor. I wish a group of people would get together, and as you come to the 13th floor for our meetings, go to the second floor, stand there and protest, have your signs up, scream, holler, where's our ARP money? Where's our ARP money? Because it's not on the council members. It's on the second floor. So I wish someone would get the gumption to get the people together. Go there, talk to the mayor, have a conversation, have him sit down with you and talk about what he's doing with the money. Because, you get to come to us every Tuesday. You can voice your concerns, you can email us. And I believe most of us are very responsive. I know I am. We're responsive, but at the end of the day, you all have to, you voted for a mayor. Well, some of you voted for a mayor. And you need to hold him accountable and make sure we get this money out. So again, we want to, if you're a business, love to hear from you. Give us a call. We would love to hear from businesses who are struggling and what you have done, especially if you've applied for this money and you were denied. I would love to hear from you. Mark, can we give them the number just so they can call in?
Sure. The call-in number is on the screen for those on social media, but the call-in number is area code 716-541-0866. That is 541-0866.
So if you are a small business and you have applied for this American Rescue money related to the pandemic and you were denied, I would love to hear from you. What was the reasoning? If you felt that you were treated fairly, did you get any money? But also we want to make sure if you are a small business and in need of these resources, you got to come Tuesday. Again, I can't come to you, but you can come to our finance committee meeting. Let us hear from you what your challenges are in hopes that we can get you some money. One of the things that the council is working with the majority leader and the council president is that we're trying to get this money, if we can, get this money designated within our districts where it's more targeted towards certain areas. Because again, if we send it downtown, I don't know. We don't know if you're going to get a fair shot at getting this money. Brainmailer certainly did. I mean, $560,000, and Paul Simonelli, God bless him, he's ponying up $500,000. But I hope he's putting his $500,000 up first. That's what I'm hopeful on.
I believe it's a match if we approve.
Okay. Because I think we need to have some conversation about the structure of that, because, I read in the news that he's really happy with what the owner is doing and all that. So if you're really happy with it, hey, pony up your money. There you go. Here you got $500,000, and then you can draw from our money. You can get those draws quarterly after we see that there's some improvement in marketing. Again, saw the news the other day, and there's a couple of residents they interviewed, and they said those prices are still not in line with them being able to do. Like they said, a block of cheese was $6.
Yeah.
A block of cheese for the folks in affordable housing at 201.
Yeah.
We need to look at something. But
And I was going to say, Councilmember, since your background is in banking, explain to the people generally what the forgivable loan is, because, we just throw around, it went from a grant to a loan. Now it's being classified as a forgivable loan. You just explain to people what a forgivable loan is.
Well, typically when you make those, you write those arrangements of what you're expecting from when you loan this money, there's some categories and there's some agreements. This one is basically, we're just giving you the money. And if whatever you do is what you do. This person could close down next week after we give them this money, and we can't get this money back.
Yeah, I think on this one, they have to be in business for 2 years.
2 years, that's what, okay. We have a caller? So again, I'm encouraging you, please, like never before, if you are a small business, we know that small businesses are hurting deeply in our city, and it seems as though one business can move to the head and everybody else, y'all got to sit and wait, because if we get downtown right is going to help you. I just want you to know that. If you get downtown right, it's going to help you. You got a caller?
I do, yes.
Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. Thank you for all that you do and for your service. Can you explain to us? I never really was familiar with the term forgivable loan, what a forgivable loan is, what that is distinct from a grant, and how often are forgivable loans given, and how does one get a forgivable loan?
Well, I can't even speak to it like you're asking, because I have not been in too many situations where a loan is forgivable. There are some grants that you typically have to have. Like, I think there was a time when you got these houses, I believe in Ellicott, and there were some grants that you had attached to them that as long as you stayed there for a period of time, you didn't have to pay that money back. But I believe it may have been 10 years or something. So they gave you this grant. If you stayed there for the 10 years, you didn't have to pay it back. But if you didn't, you had to pay a portion of it back. So the forgivable part of it is something that they just brought up. And again, I don't know how we forgive something, especially in this particular situation. We already understand that this business is under financial constraints. They're already talking about restructuring loans from the bank. And we don't even know if that's actually been done. We just heard that it's done. But again, I need to see it in black and white that that's something done. Because again, if we give them $560,000 and then they fold, in 2 months, 3 months by the end of the year, we out $560,000 that could have helped some other businesses that were struggling stay in business and not close down. So the forgivable part, again, I've not been in a lot of situations in those, as far as a business anyway, where we've have this term that we say, oh, we'll just forgive this after a certain period of time. But I guess from what Mark is saying, some of the details are, if he stays in business for 2 years, then this is forgivable.
Yeah, then if he's in business for 2 years, he doesn't have to pay the loan back. It's pretty much how is the terms of this one. And to Councilmember's point, forgivable loans is just a generic. It could be changed depending on the situation,
Right.
but there's certain terms that you have to meet in order not to pay it back.
Yeah.
How common is that, and how does one get on that forgivable loan list?
Well, this is the first time that I know that we've done it as a city. I don't know. Like, again, I've been in banking most of my career, and I've not been in those situations where there's these forgivable loans. There's a term, you have to pay it back. Now the grants, like I said, there's grants that people get for mortgages that you may get to.
Grants. I just said that term forgivable loan. It seems like an oxymoronic. Like it. If it's a loan, it's a loan. If it's something that's, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But who am I? I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, come on.
I thank you for the work that you do, and congratulations on the reelection.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's a term that someone just decided to bring to make us feel like we doing something. Okay, if you don't do it, we let you get the money back. Well, I can tell you that I don't have a lot of trust in that unless I see it in writing. And even in this situation, again, this administration has gone to the wall for Bray Miller. To the wall. I mean, you're out there having press conferences, campaigning for Bray Miller. But the businesses in my district, ain't nobody campaigning from them but the council member. And, and council president, thank goodness he had the audacity to stand up for other businesses as well, because each of us in our districts have these businesses who are struggling that could use, $5, 10, 15, $100,000. Again, I go back to Gershwin's because, again, this is a business that's been around for decades. And I don't know if they've ever asked for a penny.
Right.
And how come we can't give them money when they've been a business and never came and asked for a dollar?
No, I was going to say it's not even just that. We have Jefferson Avenue corridor in our district. You have the Bailey Avenue corridor. Yeah. I think even if you just went those two, I think 100,000 to split between the two, and not just specified, oh, this is for facade work or this is for this, being able to sprinkle it is a cash infusion that I think some of our corridors, and I'm knowing, like I said, multiple districts could use, because one, some people don't always know, and I do agree it is difficult. I won't take that. I won't say it's difficult to find the businesses or make sure that they have their paperwork ready to get access government money. But I think most of our cash infusions have either been state or county. It hasn't really been a city effort
Right.
to put cash infusions into our business corridor. So I think that's a huge step to, and no one's saying don't give Bray Miller anything.
No.
But we should be spreading this butter across the city a lot better.
Yeah. And especially when you think about Jefferson, Jefferson is the mecca for our community. And many of those businesses could have been up and going. 2.5 years we've had this money, and this money has not gotten out the door. The council has been asking, I know I've been asking over and over again, where are these RFPs? When is this money going to get out the door? And we've not gotten it yet. We're still asking for it. Last year in August, we were told that RFPs for our projects in our district are going to come out in September. We're going to get a flood of them. We ain't got nothing. Here we are.
September hasn't come yet.
Yeah, and we're back to another year, and we still don't have anything. So I just want you all to know and hear me loud and clear. This council is working hard for you, but we're not the mayor. And so, again, when you come beat up on us, I want you to go to second floor. I want you to scream at them. I want you to yell at them. I want you to beat them up like y'all beat us up sometimes, because at the end of the day, we listen to you. I know I listen to the folks in my district, and I'm fighting for them. I'm fighting for every single business in my district and in this city that has provided services, but this pandemic caught us off guard. And so it seems as though the city should have been very expeditious in getting this money out, because, again, it's like, Mark, you've heard me talk about this CDBG money, the emergency grant that they have for businesses or for home individuals. And in some cases, when I first got on council, it took almost a year of time to get this money out to these folks. And I'm like, well, it ain't an emergency if you're waiting a year later. And many times things change during that year, and you don't have an opportunity to get that money because now the criteria has changed. You might got a little 2% increase. So now because you got a 2% increase in your Social Security, whatever monies you get, you're not eligible.
Yeah.
And you done went through hoops and everything. So again, there should be a sense of urgency, and it should be a campaign for ordinary people in the city of Buffalo, our block clubs and business corridors that have struggled, not just through the pandemic, even prior to that. Our business corridors were struggling, and you go out, and this is what that burns me. You're out here having all the press conferences in the world, calling Mother Mary, please help Bray Miller. Can you help them out? They need this desperately. But a little deli store, a little business, a little hair store, a little barbershop, y'all can't get no help.
Yeah.
Because people couldn't come to your barbershop during pandemic.
Right.
You
Sure
couldn't do all that. So did you give them some money? Because a lot of them, because our barbershops and our hair salons built themselves up over time.
Absolutely.
But they all are hurting. They're
Yeah.
still hurting. So we got to get this money out.
And I will say, on the flip side, and I know I just mentioned it, I think it's imperative that our businesses operate like businesses, so we are ready. Because I think this has become a hot topic because of Bray Miller. But the greater issue is some of our businesses not having their books together, some of our businesses not being able to show that there was a loss, or the accounting, the bookkeeping. If you don't know how to do it, if you don't know what QuickBooks is, if you don't know how to do it yourself, please find somebody. There's agencies, whether it's the Beverly Gray or Buffalo State Small Business Development, somewhere. There's too many services to be able to put your businesses so it looks right on paper, so you can go after these. In certain cases, make sure you're an MWBE, because then that's a list that goes around and gets certified. So there's all these things. I think it's a two-edged sword. I think we need to be focusing to make sure we're doing both, because sometimes, we also, like I said, the difficulty that everyone says is because you either can't find the business, they're not signed up, they're not registered, they're just in a building operating, but there's no business license or things like that. So I think we have to of course, beat down the door to make sure they get the funding, but we also got to make sure we're ready to receive funding as well.
And I think a lot of it is, like I said to the folks at my block club meeting yesterday, it's about us getting engaged, getting involved. You know, I know, and I'm not going to sit here and act like government has been the best thing since sliced bread, because I know it's so difficult. It's so difficult to get anything done. It's so difficult to be heard. And so a lot of folks who had been MWBEs and went through the process of getting their business license and all that, they try to get back in this to get, jobs, and they can't get them. So they're frustrated. They're done with it. So many have said, I'm not dealing with the city. I'm not dealing with it because the red tape is so voluminous that I'm frustrated. So you're right. We got to make sure they get ready, but they got to stay ready.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, this is your business, and as one of my bosses told me, this is your career, this is your business. You got to make it happen, and you can't get weary in well doing and trying to make it successful. You got to demand certain things. The Beverly Grace Center is open. It's becoming more operational. You all need to go in there and hold them accountable. Find out what information they have. And when they don't have information, let us know, because we got to make sure that's a fine oiled or well-oiled machine. Beverly Gray was incredibly engaged. And for that center to have her name, it should be turning out so many businesses.
Absolutely.
You should be getting information. You should be well prepared, because this Beverly Grace Center was fought for. It was opened in the community because we thought that that's where it was needed, especially on Jefferson.
Yeah.
Especially
Absolutely.
on Jefferson. So if you're not utilizing the Beverly Grace Center, you're missing out on an opportunity. So please, if you are in business, like Mark said, you want to make sure all your stuff is in order. Have a good attorney. And again, that's not saying that you shouldn't be able to get this money. Please believe me. But again, not having those things in order is sometimes, I'm not going to say sometimes, many times, how they discount you because you don't have an attorney, that you don't have financial statements. I mean, I can tell you when I got involved with some organizations and they have receipts and things in a shoebox, that ain't getting you no business loan. I'm sorry.
It sure
so
isn't.
Join us on the conversation. I see we got a lot of folks on Facebook. Join us in the conversation. Mark, you can give them the number if you want to call in.
Sure.
If you're a small business.
The number is area code 716-541-0866. That is 716-541-0866.
Well, I want to say happy 64th birthday to Mrs. Caulfield, Beverly Caulfield. Happy 64th birthday to you. Thank you for tuning in to the show. We want to continue to get the sound the alarm and get people empowered. I mean, this is the power to the people. This is where you come and get information, and you ain't have to go out the red tape. Ain't nobody gonna sit up here and lie to you. We ain't pontificating. We telling you the facts, and the facts are: if we giving Bray Miller $560,000, we should be giving quadruple to other. Because I saw this the other day, and I was looking on looking at the Business First, and it showed the headline of Bray Miller getting $1.something million. And so we're giving them $1 million because Simonelli is putting in another 500. But these other struggling business, again, I go back to Gershwin's. They are struggling, and they're paying their payroll because the owners are not taking a salary. I'm sure they could use $500,000. I'm sure $500,000 would probably set them straight for next year. But can we give them $100,000? Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Is anybody else coming to donate and giving additional monies for a matching for what we may get for these other small businesses? Nobody stood up yet. But one business has, Mr. Simonelli, and maybe somebody else, if they're tuned into the show, or you know somebody, you got a good uncle or something, maybe they want to contribute another $100,000 towards the pot, because we could use those additional dollars. These dollars are precious right now. And so whatever dollars we can get to help these small businesses, we should be doing all we can to help these businesses that are struggling, because we need, we keep hearing all this issue with the Bangladesh community and other communities. And unfortunately, well, I'm not gonna say unfortunately, fortunately, they ain't gotta go to a bank.
No.
They had their own money. And we as Black and brown folks got to start working to that extent that we have our own money, because the one that has the king who holds the key holds the money most times. And so when we start developing our own economics in our own neighborhoods, that's why it's so important for you to spend your dollar in your neighborhood, because as that dollar turns and you can have other things going on, but we don't know those pieces of economics. And I got this book from Kawanja Kinkufu about Black economics. And you read that book and it starts telling you a real story about our community, that we will go 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles to save 10 cents instead of spending that 10 cents in our own neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we as a community have to start understanding, so that we're not in a situation where we got to have our hand out. But in this particular case, the federal government gave us $331 million. It's your tax dollar.
Yeah.
And so it should be going as far as we can get it in our community.
And I was going to say, you just said a lot. So there was, but the last part you just meant, the federal government, and I think sometimes we get the heat, and not everyone realizes that. So when you get these the city receives these CDBG dollars or any other this public money, tax money, it's either coming from the state or the federal government, and they already put a lot of stipulations on them where it can be spent. So there's certain districts that don't qualify for
Right.
community block grant money because they're not affected by low income and
Right.
everything neighborhoods.
Right.
So there's certain limitations that do get put on. So I think that's important for everyone to realize. The city sometimes isn't saying we can't spend money there. It depends on what's that pot of money and these stipulations that are put on it. But going back to your other point of how we spend our dollar, some of that we were taught that the other man's ice is colder than ours.
Yeah.
So we rather go to Wegmans than shop at Tops on Jefferson.
Yeah.
And we can say it's because of customer service. Well, I've been at Wegmans too, and no one spoke to me or this, that, and the other. Because either way, both of them now have self-checkout, so
Yeah.
I can still shop at Tops and do self-checkout. So I think it's retraining ourselves that we don't have to leave our neighborhoods. We don't have to take our money out of our neighborhoods because it's a known fact. It's not even quiet anymore. The black dollar leaves the black community faster than any other nationality,
Yeah.
and then that's where we have to train ourselves not to.
Yeah, and we got to get we really start having to listen and pay attention. So many times it's easy to blame the council member or even the mayor. In some cases, I'm going to put the blame on him because the blame starts with him because he's been in office 18 years and our community still look like they look. So I'm just going to leave it there. But we voted for him. Well, they voted for him. I didn't. They voted for him. So, but we got to start getting ourselves together. And it's not about disrespecting and calling people out. It's really about how we organize. It's about organize. That's the one thing I tell my block clubs. The University District Block Club Coalition, I give a big shout to them. We were able to defeat a opioid treatment center in our district, not because of just Rashid Wyatt. It was because they were organized. And when we become organized and we know what we want and we have a demand for what we want and we stick to it. Jefferson, Bailey, Fillmore, if we want those business strips to come back, we have to be involved in it and we have to demand. I give a big shout out to the folks that stood strong for recovering the 33.
Yeah.
Listen, how many years did they wait and they stood there?
20 plus.
And
easy.
so I know people, honestly, I could tell you, I wish they could spend that money somewhere else, but I'm not going to disrespect those people for what they've done and what they stood for and what they believed in. So I give big ups to them and I say, whatever y'all do, please do it and let's do it. Because at the end of the day, I wish they could spend that money somewhere else, but these folks stood and fought and demanded and they got it. So I celebrate them and we should be using that as a model of how we get things done. Sometimes it takes forever. But we got to have that stick to it. And if this is our community, nobody is going to come in and take care of us. If we don't stand up, nobody else is. And our communities are being bought out. And you can't blame these other nationalities of people that are buying houses and fixing them up because we have the same opportunity if we just work together.
Yeah, and a lot of times, and I agree, and I heard the argument. And what's funny is I don't feel like anyone had the argument about the funds to cover the 33 until there was funds. I feel like as soon as people realize like, oh, they're going to give them the money. Oh, no, it should be spent it should be spent other places. But while everyone was fighting, it's like, yeah, we stand with you. But like you said, I'm not going to tell the people that have been suffering in that community, no, you shouldn't. We should be doing something else.
Yeah.
Because you can still do infill housing with that money, as people said, but then people are still dying early because of the fumes coming off of the 33.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's the struggle we have to understand. Like, we can disagree, but let's applaud the fact that they organized and got what they have been fighting for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Because even if me and you disagree, I'm going to stand with you on your issue on Bailey, and then I want you to stand with mine over here, even though we could say, hey, listen, the money could be spent either way.
Yeah.
But because at the end of the day, there is money out here. It's just being, like you said, being organized, working together to go get it. Because the minute somebody gets $5, then somebody sits and goes, "Why not get 10?"
Yeah,
and then you have the powers that be that's just like, well, I won't give anything, because every time I do one thing, then I get beat up for not doing the other. So I think if we just applaud everyone that's trying to do something to better their community or put resources in their community, I think it's easier. It's easier to invest when it looks like people are organized and ready to invest. No one wants to. This example just came to me. The discussion about bringing Ukraine into NATO. Mm-hmm. Now everyone is saying, well, they can come as soon as the war is over. So it's the same principle. Mm-hmm. No one is getting ready to invest while there's a war on the ground. Right. So the minute the war on the ground stops, then people are like, okay, they're ready for that investment. And I think that's the part we have to get through the smoke so we can see the bigger picture on the other side.
And we have to be better negotiators. I mean, Bishop applauded the mayor. He applauded. He says, hey, I ain't mad. Bravo. You went out here and you did what you need to do to get Bray Miller this money. You out here doing it. Bravo. Well, we should be saying bravo on our behalf as well. Yeah. We got to do the same things. We have to use the same tactics. We have to use the same energy to get what we want. Because again, we expect just the elected leader to do everything, but we need our community to come together. We need you to stand with us. Like I tell my block clubs all the time. When you come with me and you stand with me, oh man, we powerful.
Absolutely.
But when we stand by ourselves, we just, you're screaming out in the wilderness by ourselves. Bray Miller, even with this, sometimes there's this opportunity. We see the situation. So how do we take advantage of it? Bray Miller is going to probably end up possibly getting their money. Seminari's going to give them another $500,000. But we are also going to make sure we get something for small businesses. So that's the silver lining in this. We're not going to give up until we get something for somebody else. I know that they're negotiating now. But again, the folks who have spoke up, who stood up, you still have an opportunity to come to our finance committee meeting at 10 o'clock. And I know people always say it's too early or what is that. It's never going to be a perfect situation for you to fight. It's right. Never going to be a person. But are you going to fight, or are we going to just yield because I got other things going on? I can't imagine the people during the civil rights movement talking about, oh, well, we can't go out there because I got to do this, I got to do that. They were fighting for something. They were fighting to get equal access to education. Yeah. They were fighting to have their children in a safe room to get books and be able to get a teacher. And so those people who fought and sacrificed, these people had their lives on the line. I'm trying to think of the civil rights leader who came out of his front door and was killed in front of his Medgar Evers. He was killed. This is what we were up against back then. Yeah. And we still overcame. We don't have that situation right now. We do have a situation where we're killing each other that we got to talk about. And I applaud Betty Jean Grant in the article that she wrote in the Challenger, because sometimes we got to take on our own people when it comes to these type of things that we stand silent on. I mean, the whole no snitching thing. I understand it, but I don't agree with it. Right. We got a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old that are dead. Yeah. And people have seen it and they're not saying anything. And it's unfortunate, that we're controlled by that type of mentality, because that's why we can't improve our neighborhoods, because we don't want to get involved. And people say, I'm too busy to come to a meeting. We're trying to arm you to help us to make sure that the things that you want in your neighborhood, like the folks in Phyllis Avenue, I gave a big shout out because they were talking about demolishing 2 buildings on their block. It would devastate their block. It would have this huge hole there. And so they came together and said, hey, we want to do something. And so I applaud them, because I said, many of them don't come to my meetings. But at the end of the day, when I needed you the most, you came because what? It affected you. The business thoroughfares on Fillmore, on Jefferson, on Bailey, they affect the people in the neighborhood. Absolutely. So we should all be fighting together, even though we don't agree on everything. But at the end of the day, we got to agree to stand together, because what helps you helps me.
Absolutely. And I think that is that's the most important part. And I know the end of the year we love to talk about Kwanzaa and all this, and rightfully so. But if throughout the year we're not continually practicing everything that we talk about during Kwanzaa. And like you said, you speak of the Muslim community,
Yeah.
the Bangladesh community, and the Yemenis community, and all of these other communities. When they come here as a community.
Yeah.
And when they have infighting, you don't know.
Yeah.
They keep it within the community. They sit down, they work it out. But they have no problem living 12 to a house so they can fix that house up. Then they buy the house next door, fix that up, and then they move 6 into that house, and they just believe in the neighborhood. And during the campaign, Leah was talking about that there were some cultural competencies, and I do believe it's both sides that should learn the cultures. But there's some people have issues because a lot of them grow like gardens and stuff in the front yard. Well, it wasn't until the campaign that I realized that's for community. So they'll grow fruit in the front because if their neighbor is hungry, they can just grab something and keep going.
Wow.
So it's those kind of cultural competencies and understanding that, hey, I can take care of, if I take care of mine, maybe I can rub off and that person takes care of theirs.
Yeah.
And then now we look like an actual community, and it's building on those efforts. And I think because of disinvestment and everything else, we've just created in our own minds this like survivor fight, and next thing you know, we just can't come together, and that's what people want. They just want us to keep fighting over the scraps or keep fighting because there's nothing there. If you leave a pit of dogs hungry enough and you throw a piece of steak in there, they're going to go fight.
Right.
And that's what's happening in our communities.
And I think about one of those speeches Dr. King had spoke on, and he talked about the Egyptians. He says, how did the Egyptians keep the Israelites enslaved? It was many, many, many more Israelites than the Egyptians. But what did they do? They kept them fighting amongst themselves. And so that's how you kept them enslaved, because your eye is not on the ball. Your eye is on your neighbor. Oh, he trying to take. The Bangladesh trying to take from me. But at the end of the day, the Bangladeshers coming here, they ain't even thinking about us. They said, I want that building. How much? 50,000? I'm going to pay for it.
And we're selling it to them. Let's not forget the most important thing. We're selling it to them. The people, so we're arguing about what they're doing, but it's our people selling it to them. It was our people who closed the corner stores. It was our people. So they just looked at a business or a home or a business and was just like, well, I'll move in, and I can't be mad. It's capitalist society.
Yeah, and like you said, they'll be 20 into a house, and they good with it for a minute. We can't have 5 to a house. We have a problem.
No.
But again, we want to keep you engaged. This is just a good conversation. We really have to start arming ourselves as a community to work together. And I know that's, it's easier said than done, because so many times we get in a conversation and things just go off the rail. But we are united, many of us, in this situation regarding Broy Miller, because we see the injustice, we see the inequality. And so, again, when we start arming ourselves with the ammunition to how do we get something, because it really, honestly, it boils down to negotiation, and we got to start negotiating things. We got to start making sure that even when we elect people, we got to find out exactly, know what, before we elect them, we should let them know what we want, not what they're telling us what they want.
Absolutely.
It should be the reverse, and we've done this backwards for so many years. We've said, what they going to do for us? No, we should be telling them, this is what we want. We want Jefferson, we want Bailey, we want, Fillmore, we want these things, we want these amenities, we want, new streetscapes, we want to get rid of bump outs. Bailey Avenue is getting ready to go through a streetscape plan. We had a meeting at Westminster Charter School, right in the neighborhood. We had about 10 people show up.
Wow.
But when it comes out and it's not what you want, then you're like, well, it's the councilman's fault. It ain't my fault. I can't come to everybody's house. You gotta get involved. I have so many, Mark, I have so many meetings.
Yes, you do.
I have so many meetings.
But it's definitely the
important
hardest
to me.
working council member.
It's important to me to go out there. So even when I went out on campaign, my opponent was saying, well, he's not been here. He hasn't come to your house. But if you knew how many community meetings I have, not just in one area, in several areas, you'd be like, well, he was close to me.
Yeah.
I could have walked to this meeting. We just had a meeting, like I said, in March, and we had 110 people show.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't an issue. It was just they wanted to know. They
No,
wanted to get
right.
involved. And I understand some people's discontent with government because they feel like you get in there, you do whatever you want, and it's just, okay, you in there, we can't do anything. But you can do something because I am good with you letting me know, hey, council member, this is something I need done in my area. Now it's on me, but
Yeah.
sometimes we get accused of things that we don't have a clue.
We don't have a
You
clue.
ain't send an email to my
Nothing.
office.
Not a phone call.
And you
nothing.
really didn't call my office because sometimes they say, "Oh, I called your office." Well, you ain't called my office because if you'd have called my office, Doris Corley would have said, "Councilmember so and so
Absolutely.
want to talk to you."
Absolutely.
So,
She
but
does.
again, we got to be organized, and I think that's the key. When we start looking at organizing and we start looking at the economics in our community, I mean, I got 34 stores, deli stores in my district. Not one is owned by African American.
No.
Not one. And is it my fault? I mean, I can't give you money. We can't, as they say, a gift of public
Public
funds for you to
funds,
open your
right.
business. There's no grants to give you when you haven't started your business. So if you are up and coming business or you want to start a business, this money that we're talking about is not for you. If you are in business and you've lost money due to the pandemic, you can come to our meeting on Tuesday and you can sound off and talk about your needs and hopefully we can have some targeted funds for you. So we're trying to get this money in our districts, in the community. So we're not trying to have you go to downtown to the second floor or to Bureau to get this money. We're really trying to have this money in the community. So you can go to, in my case, the Gloria Park Center and talk to them about you getting money for this business. We're trying to make it less restrictive so that it's easier for you to obtain as opposed to the 55 pages of hoops and information you got to provide. At the end of the day, for me, if you've been in business, you can show me you've been in business. You're not going to be showing me, so I won't be making a decision. But if you can show the people who are taking your application that you've been in business and you've been affected by the pandemic, and like Mark was saying, if you have your financials in order where you can show that there was a loss.
Absolutely.
You can't get no simpler than that. I know barbershops is easy. I was depositing $4,000 at one point, then I was depositing nothing.
Right.
Here's my statement. In March I was getting this. In May, it was nothing. Those are some simple things you can do, and you can write a little narrative about how this impacted you, what things affected you, if you had leases and things like that you had to default on because of that. Those are things that legitimately you can bring forth and say, hey, I'm in need of this money and I deserve to get this money because, again, that's why the money was given to us from the federal government, because those businesses that were affected by the pandemic should be able to be helped up so that they can be made right and get back on the right page.
And absolutely. And like you said, even with the barbershop example, but this is why your paperwork is important, because you can't say I'm collecting rent and it's going into your personal bank account. You can't say I'm collecting rent and there's no lease or chair rental agreement. So this is what we're talking about by having your stuff ready, so that way you can show that loss, because if not, it just looks like you just got $4,000 legal dollars every month, and we'd have no way to track it. I want to shout, Jomo texted me and said he wants to make sure our community is working and getting trained for that 33 project, because it's going to be at least 3 years of heavy concrete highway with heavy concrete and high highway rate wages. So, and that's important too, because sometimes our businesses don't come into our community because, again, looking at the economics, if I'm a business trying to start up, I do my research and find the disposable income of that community. So if I move into a community that doesn't average a lot of disposable income, that's why a lot of our black businesses are moving to Hurdle and Elmwood and things like that, because there's more disposable income out there. So this is why. So again, there's all these multiple approaches that we need to be working on together. How do we increase our wages? How do we become a better community? And then that way we can support all of these businesses. If we want Bailey Avenue to have these string of, they always say the sign of gentrification is coffee shops. But if we want our neighborhoods to start looking like, as people say, Elmwood Village and Hurdle, then we have to do the things in those side streets that bring the businesses to there. And a lot of that is getting trained, increasing our own incomes and our wages and just being better neighbors.
Yeah. And you're right, Mark. It's like, we got to start working together. We got to start really pulling each other up. One thing that I'm really proud of, I can say there's a couple of businesses I'm so proud of. MMB Realty. Big shout out to them
Absolutely.
sisters that came together
Absolutely.
and said, you know what? We're gonna put a business plan together where MMB Realty is the premier real estate company in the city of Buffalo, and
Absolutely.
they are doing it. Look at, they sacrificed, they humbled themselves, and now they're doing great work. Big ups to MMB, and then all the restaurants that we have in our city.
Absolutely.
And I'm not gonna go and name them all because I'll miss
We'll
one, and they'll
forget
be like,
some,
hey, but we have some great African American soul food restaurants in our city that we can start building from, because every community, every strong community that I know of have great restaurants.
Absolutely.
And so those are some of the key pieces that we can have. When I was lived in Virginia, there were some Asian people that purchased a strip plaza, and I was blown away. I'm like, they had like 5 different stores, and they owned a strip plaza. We have great opportunity in our community. Fillmore, Bailey, there's business opportunities. Even Jefferson, there's opportunities, but we got to come together. We need to have business consortiums that we come together and really do the work. We got these people in office now. We got our majority leader, Crystal Peoples-Stokes. We got Senator Tim Kennedy. We have these people in place, but you know what? Some years ago, Bishop told me that the clergy had a meeting with Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton said, "I need a plan for the black community.
Right.
I need a written plan. What are some of the things we should have? That plan. That plan should be at the tip of all of our tongues, because if I start a business, I need to know what Fillmore is doing. I need to know what Jefferson is doing. I need to know what Bailey is doing. How can I tap into the resources they have? I know that we had the dollars that came for the. I think the county has some money currently. There's opportunities for us, but we got to be together. We got to be on the same page. We can't get ready. We got to be ready.
Right.
And just like Ross just said, there's going to be opportunities down the road. Are we going to plug ourselves in, or are we going to sit there and let everybody else to make the money?
Absolutely.
And you in our neighborhood, and we can't make a dollar.
Absolutely. And I know you went to the event, but just like with the Chairwoman Baskin's Level Up program.
Oh, yeah.
So again, you can't say I don't have opportunity, but you're running private businesses, because even to bid on some of these jobs, you got to have certain insurances.
Yeah.
You got to be able to get bonded and things like that. So like you said, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
Yeah.
And I think there's always opportunity, but you can't stay on Facebook and social media and complain. You actually have to put that work in, because like you said, nobody's going to hand you anything. It takes a lot of work to get anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bigger picture. We have to work together, but you have to work for yourself as well.
Yeah, and I got a lot of contractor friends that I'm working on and rehabbing a house, and I've been able to tap into some of these contractors, and none of them are together. They're individual.
Yeah.
I said, we got some of the best contractors in the city of Buffalo. If they just came under one umbrella, what they could be doing, the opportunities. I know we're having this push on this infill housing. There's opportunities there. I want to see a lot more infill housing in my district, but there's opportunities. We have these business trips that there's opportunities. I don't think anyone's in Maddie's as of yet, right?
I don't think so.
So there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
I remember when Maddie's was there, Cliff Bell's Sporting Goods was across the street. There's opportunity, but we have to seize the moment. Some of us have, some folks, and I can't be mad at them. They're going to where those business strips are plentiful. They have a lot of foot traffic. Who's going to argue with being on Hurdle?
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Who's going to argue with being in the Elmwood Village? Absolutely. But how about creating your own?
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, I shout out MMB because they just said, we're going to step out.
Yep.
We're going to be, even Jesus said, you got to set yourself apart.
Absolutely. Sure did.
And you will be seen. Come on, Zacchaeus.
Yep.
Set yourself apart. But there is opportunity for us. And again, I'm going to go back to our main conversation was this Bray Miller. But Bray Miller has caused us now to have further conversation and examining in ourselves. Yeah, he has some connections. He has some contacts. But we have some of the same opportunities, but we have to be ready. So there's going to be a demand to say, hey, I need this. I go back to Ella Baker during the Civil Rights Movement. and the lunch counter sitting, and she says, "We want more than a hamburger."
Absolutely.
I just don't want to go in and have a hamburger. I want to own the place.
Absolutely.
Pilot Paley says it all the time, own it. So when we inspire one another and we really get ourselves together and we, understand that, there's people in these businesses, these areas that if you partner with, I know a contractor that's an electrician, a contractor that's a drywaller, a contractor that's a mason, where, if we come together, we can start our own business and we could be successful. You have MMB, you have this realty company that you could be working with to say, hey, we want to start partnering with you to build some houses. As a matter of fact, are they building the houses on Adams?
Yes, they are part of the Adams Street infill project.
Okay,
Yep.
so they're doing some projects already, and again, you could be a part of this, but again, we have to be ready. We have to get ready. We have to stay ready, and I hope that again, I'm going to go right back. I hope that those small businesses that are in need of assistance will come to our 10 a.m. meeting on Tuesday in Finance, 13th floor City Hall. Let us know that you are in need. Let us know if you were denied. I asked people to call in and no one called in. So maybe you didn't get an opportunity to apply, or maybe you didn't get the information. But again, you have an opportunity to get this information so that you can start 2023 out the right way. Since we're almost halfway through, hey, maybe we can see a brighter 2024, but you got to get involved. You got to be here. You got to get involved and, come and hear what's going on. I know we almost to the end. We're to the end. Thank you for listening to another edition of Power to the People. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you, Mark. And thank you to our sponsors for another edition of Power to the People.
When it comes to something as personal as your clothes, you need to deal with somebody you can trust. That's why so many people turn to Hobson's Dry Cleaning, conveniently located in the heart of the community at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming.
When you take your clothes to Hobson's, you can trust that they'll be ready on time.
You can trust that your whites will be white.
You can trust that you'll always get a fair price and service with a smile.
You can even trust that you won't have to get out of your car if you don't want to. Hobson's has a drive-through window for your convenience.
Trust is what it's all about at Hobson's Dry Cleaning.
Hobson's Dry Cleaning, your one-stop dry cleaners serving the community for over 30 years at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming. Call 891-8298. That's 891-8298.
Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home has 3 locations to serve you in Buffalo: 347 Peckham, 2258 Bailey Avenue, and Providence Memorial Chapel at 1275 Sycamore. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes offers traditional services, and they have services for all faiths. And at Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes, they have air-conditioned parlors and chapels. Financing is available, as is limousine service. At those difficult moments in your life, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes is available where you are with counseling services. Call toll-free 877-885-7734. That's 877-885-7734. Or locally 845-5545. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes. We are here to serve you, here to serve this present age. Call today, toll-free 877-885-7734. Or email info@brianklewisfuneralhome.com.